Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Of course, I thank my colleagues for being with us today, and I'm grateful that you've given considerable thought to these questions. I'll have an opening statement that I'll deliver at a later time, but I do think it important to note that I don't think you'll find a member of Congress who won't agree that we should pay our debts. I don't think you'll find a member of Congress who would say we should shut down the government. However, I do know that there are members of Congress who contend that you can make partial payments, and by making a partial payment, you somehow cause everything to go on, and you don't have a disruption in domestic markets, international markets. The witnesses who will be testifying after my colleagues will indicate some of the concerns that they have with reference to disruptions of markets in the event we make a partial payment of our debts. Partial payment meaning just decide to pay the principal and interest, take care of the treasuries, make sure the bonds are paid, overlooks things like Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. There's at least one witness who thinks that we should overlook Social Security, just pay the interest on debt. So with that as the circumstance, Mr. Pocan, would you advocate in any way making a partial payment, meaning pay some parts of the debt but not paying all of the debts?
Well, and I think that's what's really at the point that we're trying to have a debate about, is whether or not, if we did our jobs right in the first place, we don't have to have this ancillary conversation later. And that's exactly, I think, what we're doing. When I went through just my experience in that October when we were shut down for 17 days, people were very upset that we weren't doing our jobs. And it seemed like, I think there were 22 demands that came during the 17 days. I remember one morning watching Darrell Issa on TV addressing a demand, and they said, oh, no, your demands have changed already. Now it's a different demand. And we tried to keep up with demands that were made. The bottom line is we just what we all want and need to do, but we have to be responsible and get that done. And if we don't get it done and we get to the point that we sometimes use the debt ceiling as an excuse, even though we've already made the expenditures, we've already done that. And we can't use the other to not drop that envelope in the mail after we've already signed up for the mortgage. So it is incumbent on us to get that done.
I think it's also important that we give some definition to the term raise the debt ceiling. Because I think there's a nebulous notion in the minds of the public as to what this actually means. It really means pay the bills you've already incurred that you have agreed to pay. Pay the bills that are owed and properly due, as opposed to some notion that we are now trying to extend credit beyond some unreasonable amount. We're talking about money owed to people, in many cases, doctors who will help us with Medicare and Medicaid, money owed to businesses, but we're talking about paying what's owed. That's what raising the debt ceiling means, that we're simply going to pay the debt that we already know owe, in fact, that Congress has agreed to pay. Is this a fair statement, Mr. Pocan?
No, absolutely. That's the part that, maybe it's because I'm still new around here and I go back to Wisconsin a lot, but that's what I hear people when I talk to them. I try to bring Washington to them. I figure that's my job. And when you try to explain something like this, around here we have all sorts of things that just aren't real people speak. We have inside the Beltway conversations, and this is one that's a classic. If you agree to a home mortgage, you have to pay it. You can't decide not to because of something like we do with the debt ceiling. So that whole debate that we have is often, to real people, a very ridiculous debate that we wouldn't pay that. You've already authorized the expenditure. And then to have a Band-Aid solution because we didn't do our jobs to begin with is exactly what we're talking about.
And if you have third parties that we owe money to, and they are, let's call them a part of the international community, and they see us bickering about paying debts that are already owed, does that have an adverse impact on them, you think?
Yeah, and it's not just us. It's the financial agencies that said that. If we did that, it would affect our credit rating, which would affect just about everything, and could have ripple effects throughout the economy, to businesses, to how we borrow, to everything else. So it does have real ramifications. And while sometimes I think some enjoy the dance, the fight that we have around here, real people back in Wisconsin that I talk to don't.
Well, I thank you very much, and I'll yield back. My time is up.
The gentleman yields back.